It doesn't look like something that's made for people with disabilities. So that's the other thing is people don't understand, they don't want to be singled out. They don't want a special product just for them.
Hello everyone and welcome back to episode 166. So years back in the day when I was reading books about Richard Branson and business owners and entrepreneurs, there's a company called Zappos. Some of you might remember them. They sold shoes and eventually were bought by Amazon. But Tony, the founder, used to say, we don't actually sell shoes, we sell happiness. And this entire conversation I had with our guest kept making me think about that because of what he actually does. It's different than what his company does. I feel like he's actually a bringer of hope and fun in his industry. So Jason Wisniewski is, well, first of all, let me just tell you guys this. He was just awarded an amazing award. So in Daly in Adelaide, like South Australia, in Daly has a 40 under 40 which I think is an Australian-wide award. Anyway, he won that, and specifically in his category, Sustainable Business Leaders Award, he won that. So he just won this incredibly impressive award, but more on what he's actually doing. So he worked for 13 to 14 years in the disability care industry, and he started as a support worker, so literally on the ground with people. He made his way up from team leader, rostering manager to coordinator to eventually being sick and tired of the red tape in the industry and wanted change, which he's going to talk to you guys about, which is ultimately what all of us crave, why we go into business in the first place, I think, right? So he wanted change. He went out on his own. He started Vana Care, and they basically deliver, as he says, personalized in-home disability support and community care services. But ultimately, you know what, you guys? What he said is that he delivers goals. He takes somebody's goals and he makes them happen. That's why I was saying it kept making me think of delivering happiness. So it's incredible what he's up to. And he started this from word of mouth, and he has a company now with over 200 clients and over 120 staff. So it's a big company. But you guys, get this. If that wasn't enough, not only having a few kids in his life and his wife, he has another company he started recently, Business Vows Adapt. I'm not even going to tell you what that is. It's seriously cool. He'll tell you about it. You've got to tune in and listen till he tells you what this new business is. He is bought into a high-end cocktail bar, and he's even managing an up-and-coming musical artist, Dakota S, which you're going to hear about too. I don't know how he has the time. He tells you a little bit about how he makes the time. Pretty impressive. But yeah, we have a great conversation. I'm really looking forward for you guys to tune in and have a chat with Jason and hear what he's going to say. So you guys ready? Let's do this. Let's welcome Jason on the show. Jason, thank you so much for being on the show. We have so much to talk about. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, Heather. Thanks for having me today. I'm excited for this.
Before we chat about some tips, because I always like to start with tips and then learn a bit about you, I just want to congratulate you on your award. Will you please tell everyone what you just won?
Thank you so much. So I was just... I got the award for 40 under 40. So that's in South Australia through the In Daily. It was pretty amazing. I didn't expect to even make it to the top 40. So to be considered as a top 40 amongst so many amazing people was pretty insane. But yeah, not only that, actually went on further to win the category for myself, which was for just one second. The Sustainable Business Leaders Award. I actually have it right here.
There's the award, you guys. If you're watching this, he's holding it up. It's so
it's
good.
Actually on the table, sorry. It's so heavy.
Well, we're going to find out why you got it. Obviously, there's very good reasons behind that, and we'll learn about that. But I want to know, you have a lot going on, like clothing, music, this amazing business, which we're going to talk about in a minute. So your family, do you have 3 kids, 4 kids?
Yeah,
something?
3 kids.
Okay, a lot happening. So how do you keep saying, what are a few tips that you can share on managing everything in your life so you actually have time to live your life?
Yeah, of course. It's really important to have really good systems. Automate things as much as you can. Spend that time to do some research, but also delegating. So when you're running businesses, you really need to make sure you can delegate. A lot of people have that fear of thinking people can't do the task as well as them, but you just can't. You really can't do everything at once. So you need to make sure that you become the person that builds the systems for your business, your life, and everything, not become the system. So a lot of people fall into that trap.
How did you get there? Like when you had to, because you have quite a big team, I know, in one of your businesses. How do you constantly do that? Because that's a lot of pressure to transition from doer to leader. Like, what are some tips around that?
Yeah, I think it's making sure that you're paying attention to the detail with what you're doing. So obviously I went from support worker to team leader to all kinds of things until eventually starting Vana Care, and I was always learning. I never thought I was an expert in anything. I was always taking everything in, listening to people who gave advice, tips, and also, knowing what I wanted. So it was good for me to experience those different roles and to know what other people would want. So when I stepped in and started my own company, I already built a lot of connections from the ground up. So naturally, people just followed me, and it was a lot of it was word of mouth. Yeah. But paying attention to the small details, I think, really helped. A lot of people, when they get into a management role or in their business, they just lose sight of everything. They forget why they did it. They forget what it was like to be on the ground level, and there's always that divide. And I've made sure that I always keep that in mind. So it's always helped me to connect with everyone else.
Yeah, that's good. And what about juggling your projects? Because you are doing quite a few things. Yep. How do you decide where to put your time in a day?
Yeah, so it is really important because early on when I was starting, I did get burnt out, and I couldn't switch off. Work was everything, and it was affecting home, my home life. So learning to switch off, prioritizing, making sure I set time to go to the gym. That's important for me. Making sure I spend time with the kids. Doing family time. Even if it's just sitting around at the table, having dinner together, talking about everyone's day, making sure you set out time. And I've got 3 kids, so, juggling one-on-one time with those as well. But it's important. You realize you've actually got enough time in the day. But people just don't realize how much time they're wasting. When you break everything down, you can actually achieve a lot in your day. It's really up to you. So I found just making sure I manage everything, using my calendars, using as much tools as I can, because I do struggle with ADHD as well, so sometimes I can get carried away and distracted very easily. So utilizing the tools is definitely helped me.
That's good. That's good for me to know. I know that ADHD, hyper, super focus, and you're probably in your brain already darting off into 5 conversations right now.
It's insane. Yeah, it's insane.
All right, tools. Then, what are a couple tools or apps or things that you use to help?
So one of the big ones I find that's really useful is Notion. So it's like your one stop. It's like a big. I guess you can have everything in there, like all your. I actually have all my businesses all on different pages, so I can just jump through, click on links. You can automate projects and stuff, so I can set up projects where, if it's done, it'll automatically send off an email to the right person to check it for me. It's great. It does take a bit to set up, but it was definitely worth it for me. Okay. Obviously, ChatGPT and all the AI tools, a lot of people, especially in the disability industry, are scared of it. They don't understand it and they're avoiding it. But if you really spend time to learn what it can, because it can definitely benefit you in a lot of different ways in all industries. So use it, find out what you use for your industry. Just even if it's just sending off a quick email, because a lot of times people will send off an email and they're not sure if it sounds right. They get people to check it for them. You can literally do that in 1 second with ChatGPT. So, don't waste time.
It's such a good sounding board, right? And it can consolidate your thoughts. And
100%.
That's really, really helpful. So I do want to start to talk a little bit about your businesses, plural, because you have a few. But before we get there, where did you start professionally? What was that? What did that look like for you?
So it was actually through Vana Care. So it was, I never had the intention to start a business. It was just more, I was just passionate about what I was doing. And I really wanted to change. I was so passionate about seeing change in the industry And it took some time, and I realized after, just complaining and stuff, I'm like, you know what? I don't think this is going to help. It's not going to change. I actually have to be part of this change. So, I started looking into it, and I realized that I need to make that example. Maybe people will follow. And naturally, I already had people that were looking up to me as a leader anyway in the industry. So when I did this, people just naturally followed me. And because I was so curious about the red tape, there's so much red tape in the disability sector here in Australia. And I just didn't understand it. So when I went off on my own, I realized that a lot of the red tape that was there wasn't actually, it didn't need to be there. It's just because some industry or some providers just set that there for their own protection or whatever. But realizing that these clients are real people, just like you and me, they've got real goals. Treat them like a human first, and people could see that difference. We had a young man who he was 21. He's never been out, out to town, a night out. He's never experienced that, and he's always had other disability companies who have been like, oh, we're not going to do that because it was too risky or whatever. But that's a real thing. We all do that. We all like to go out, enjoy ourselves.
Totally.
So we did. We enjoyed that. We set it up for him. We had 2 workers out with him. He went out. He had a great time. He met some people. Obviously, we didn't drink or anything, but we made sure he was safe and he had a good time. And he thanked us so much for that. He's never had that before.
Wow.
So that's the sort of things that we did. And people in the industry could see the impact that we were having. So it started to take off really quickly.
What you mentioned at the start around the change, like you wanted to bring change to the industry.
Yeah.
What are a few of the key things that you saw that needed to be changed?
So when I started, I was about 19. I was one of the only males actually working in the industry. There was hardly any guys. So I found that very odd because I actually really enjoyed what I was doing. I felt like I was in a position where I can make a difference, I can help people, and that's what I was passionate about doing. So one of the things I used to do was actually get the word out. I used to talk to people that I thought were similar to me, that I thought would be good mentors, and I was talking to them about this, and everyone's like, oh yeah, sounds cool. But only now, there's a huge shift where a lot of people are doing support work or are in this industry now because they've realised the impact that they can do and what type of work this is. But back then, it was mainly middle-aged women, either nurses and stuff, and great workers, but they had more of like a motherly effect, a motherly approach. So their focus was usually on cleaning, cooking, which obviously is important. But then, my clients would look forward when they see me because they knew we're going to go out, we're going to go for a drive, we're going to have a fun time, we're going to listen to music, sing, whatever. So, those real stuff that they look forward to because, they're at home every day and you might see them once or twice a week, but, for them, they're there every day. So sometimes you can be the one thing that they look forward to. So, you can make a real impact.
So describe what, in your own words, like your elevator pitch, what does your company do?
So we do provide, obviously, disability support, community access, in-home supports, but we try to make a different, a point of making a difference where we are focusing on goals. Like I said, we're not just there to tick a box, because other people will look at the client and stuff and just to make other stakeholders or the system happy to get things done. But for us, we look first at our clients. What are their goals? Their real goals, like I mentioned before about the previous client. And if you do that, the other stuff will just come naturally anyway. So that's what we've got a big focus on.
So when you meet with your clients, is that part of the process? Do you actually talk about what they want in life and day to day? Is that part of it?
Yeah, so another way that we do stand out a little bit different is, we are flexible, not only with, clients and everything, but with our staff as well. So we have a different model where staff will come on board. They will tell us what availability they have, what they can work, whereas other companies will just give you a roster and say, this is what you're working, don't like it, then tough.
Right.
The staff are happy, and then what we do is we create a staff profile and we send it out to the clients. So the clients have a choice as well. They get to pick who gets to work with them, and we may suggest or whatever who might be a good fit. But generally, it works both sides. Then we organise a meet and greet. So that way, the client does have choice and control. They can actually see who's going to work with them. Because a lot of the time in the industry, the clients they don't even know who's coming. So they get anxious about who's going to turn up to their house. They have no idea. They may not even like the person. They may not even get along, or even be able to talk to the person. So that happens too much.
Wow, Jason, there's I don't know if you ever heard about the company Zappos. They sold shoes, and then they were bought up by Amazon, and their whole like mission was selling happiness. It wasn't selling shoes. That's what you're making me think of that, right? You like genuinely care about the people you're looking after.
I think as well that's what makes a difference, because if you look, especially now, there's so many people that are coming from other industries that have nothing to do with disability support, a chicken shop or something, and they're coming into disability because they think, oh yeah, it's just another business, but they're not passionate about what they're doing, and they don't realise the impact and how much you can have on a person. So, us having that approach, it does make a difference, because you're not just, like I said, ticking a box. You're making those genuine human connections with these people, and that, if you do pair the right person with a client, it actually can make a lasting effect, can actually help that person to achieve their goals just because you found that right person. Yeah.
And took the time to actually work out what their goals were in the first place as well.
Yeah, that's right.
God, it's beautiful what you're doing. How many people are on the team now?
So we've currently got 120 support workers.
Wow.
It is a bit amazing just to think about it, because it's been about 4 years, and it's just grown so quickly. But because we're just so fixed on what we're doing, it just the number doesn't really matter. But I bet when you were a support worker back at the start of this, the younger version of you would have never in your wildest dreams imagined what you would have about to build, and then you just got an award. No, not at all. Honestly, I was just happy to get a job and work in something that I was happy to do. Because I've been in the industry for about 13 years now. So when I originally started, I was young, didn't really know, and then it kind of just, I think at one point, my whole team that I was working with left, or they got moved, and all of a sudden I was only there for 6 months, and then I became the senior. So everyone's looking up to me for all of a sudden. I've only been there for 6 months, and I just naturally kind of stepped up. And I think from that moment, it just carried me across with the industry.
Wow. What do you think the future of your industry is going to look like? I'd imagine you're going to be part of that, by the way, and where that heads. But what would you like, or what are your hopes for the industry?
So it's the NDIS is evolving very quickly. They are making changes, and there is a lot of negativity right now, especially on LinkedIn. People are complaining about the cuts and everything that's happening right now. It is a lot, and there is a lot of businesses that are being affected, unfortunately, but you have to make sure you're being proactive. We knew this was coming. It's not a surprise. This was going to happen. We all knew this was going to happen. So one thing, we've always been forward thinking. We've always made sure that we are doing strategic planning that actually matters, not just ticking a box. Again, ticking a box. We made sure our systems were good. Utilizing the tools like AI. Only recently now, it's being forced on other providers now to start using it. They're telling them you have to use it now. But we were using this 2 years ago. So it's just we already have a good understanding, so we're utilizing it as much as we can now. But all to our benefit.
When you say you're using it, and now other providers are being asked to use it as well, do you use it beyond writing an email? Are there lots of other ways you use it? There's so many ways. So we have clients, for example,
most clients have different systems and tools that you got to prepare, or trainings and stuff that you got to set up. So an example, we have a client that they want to learn how to use or catch public transport.
Yeah.
So you got to break that down into steps for them because they've never done it. They've got a lot of anxiety. So it's a big task for them. So you got to break it down. So if you think about something that you got to create that's going to be good to show that client and explain it to them as well. It might take 2-3 hours just to type something up, make it look pretty or whatever. But if I just put in the keywords, create public transport training program, 6 to 8 weeks with a breakdown, I'll put it in ChatGPT, it will give it to me, 3 seconds or whatever.
Yeah.
And it may not be perfect, but at least it's given me the base, and that time that it's taken is just, cut 3 hours. I can have it done within 20 minutes. I can use that information, transfer it over, make it look pretty. And then again, if I feel like the language is not great, I can then say, reword this in simple English. So then I can show it to the client so they can understand it a lot better. So if people utilize it for things like that, it's really going to help. And quoting, so we have to make sure our quoting is correct, when you're billing. So people have different systems that do it for them, but you can literally set it up through ChatGPT to have it done for you as well.
Very smart use of the tool, for sure. Very smart. Thank you for sharing that. I want to change gears a little bit because you, as if you didn't have enough to do already, you have a new business, magnetic shirts. I had to go see what it was, and I loved it. Looked amazingly simple, the men's shirt. Tell me more. When did this business start, and why? Why this business? Why are you doing it?
So, I'm just passionate about the work that I'm doing in this industry, and I'm always looking for things to help my clients or people that I work with. And I came across it one day on the news about a 17-year-old boy who was going to high school, and he was going for his graduation, and there was like a Ferrari sort of formal wear sort of type place that custom made a shirt for him. He had cerebral palsy. So they custom made this shirt, but it was just the top few buttons that they had custom made for magnets, just so he was able to close those buttons himself. And something about that, I just kept thinking about it, and I was like, oh man, that's amazing. I just kept thinking about all of my clients that would benefit from that, just having the ability to close their shirt. Something small that we take for granted. I actually contacted the place, and they told me, we just do it custom, and if you wanted something like that, it'd be like $300-400. I was like, okay, that's not okay. That's way too much.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I just kept thinking about it, and it just people were just saying to me. I spoke to my wife and my personal trainer at the time because he had some experience with clothing, and he's like, "You should do this, man. This is amazing." So the more we chat, I was like, "You know what? I think he's the perfect person to help me with this." So we got together, we did a plan. It was a bit trying to find the right shirt. We had, I think, 7 or 8 samples that weren't really great. The magnets weren't strong enough or anything. So we wanted to make sure that the shirt is a good product. The clients can feel good, or anyone who's wearing it feels good wearing it. Good material. It doesn't look like something that's made for people with disabilities. So that's the other thing is people don't understand, they don't want to be singled out. They don't want a special product just for them. They want, we thought a shirt that's going to help them, but also them fit in. So this shirt's for everyone. I wear them myself because it literally
looks good.
Takes one. There's 90%, 97% cotton and 3% spandex, so it's got a bit of room, but it's actually really comfortable, really nice material, high quality, but you feel good in it, and 1 second and bam, the shirt's done. And when you come home from work, straight away off.
It looks so stylish on your website, like the way you've put it together and the positioning of it. It looks absolutely brilliant. Like I'm thinking, what's this trend that I missed? Because it looks like it's made for everyone. The way you
that's the idea. We don't want people to feel like they belong in a certain box.
So good.
Same level, and that's what they want.
Wow.
So we only just started, but
I was just going to say, when did you start?
So the planning has actually taken a year. It took
Okay.
so slow to get the manufacturing, the samples, everything done. But we only just launched 3 weeks ago.
Wow. Okay, you got your award. You have this new business. Wow. And I have to piggyback off that with two other questions. So you are now also doing stuff in the music sort of cocktail bar scene as well. So what is going on, Jason? Like, okay, let's talk about the
Yeah.
music side. What's going on with that?
So yeah, it is crazy. So I think it's really just like a domino effect. Really, once you start picking up the pace with things, these opportunities just seem to come to you. I think people just
Yeah.
recognize and they just look to you, and then these opportunities just come. So that's what's happened with this music. That's just something just recently that's just come through to me. One of my friends, he was doing music and he actually started doing really well, and it took off. He even got into the States,
Yeah.
but he didn't have the support. He didn't understand the business side of things. He got stressed out and he stopped. And when I started talking to him and he started telling me about this music, I was like, oh yeah, I've heard people, anyone could do music, whatever. And I started listening to it. I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And I was like, why aren't you doing this? And I kept thinking about it. I said to him, like, you need to do this. You need to do this. Stop doing what you're doing. You need to do your music. And then he said he started thinking about it. He came back to me and he goes, honestly, you've actually sparked my passion again for music. And then he kind of hinted to me about managing for him. It was kind of funny, but I wasn't sure if he wanted me or not. But then later he actually just asked me. And I said, honestly, man, you need to just ask me. And I said, yes, of course. And then, yeah, it's just something new and it's been exciting. And I've already learned so much about the industry.
Wow.
And because I already have, a passion about music. I'm not, an artist or anything like that. I can't play anything, but I just, seem to have a sound for music, and I really, and he noticed that. So it's already, he's already launched his new single that's coming out on the 4th of July, and he thanked me because he said he honestly wouldn't have been able to do it.
What's the name of the group?
So he calls himself Dakota S.
Okay.
But because he's actually really talented. He can play any instrument, he can sing in any genre, so he actually is looking at trying to change to another one, but we're looking at that later.
Wow.
But yeah, it's exciting times.
Yeah, it's amazing what you do, and I'm hearing a couple of things from what you're saying. Obviously, you've developed a really strong business head. You stay really grounded with all levels of the business and all roles. Great systems. You use AI, but you have something else. You have a really beautiful way of, I think, promoting hope, and that's probably through your goal setting, and I can tell it's such an important part of really helping people beyond what the business does, quote unquote. So I'm not surprised you're helping in this way.
Thank you.
I want to know a few more things. So if you think back to yourself a year ago, so in the middle of winter, Southern Hemisphere are in Australia, June last year, what do you think you've done exceptionally well in the last year of your life?
I think I've had to really just change my way of thinking, because I'm so passionate and I do care about people. At times that would get me down a lot because I feel like I would let people down, or I wasn't doing enough to help, and it would. But then I think I started reflecting a lot, and I can't fix every problem. I can't please everyone, and if I just focus on myself and try to stay away from the negativity, because there is going to be toxic people that unfortunately they're not going to be happy for what you're doing. They might be jealous, but there might be some things underlining there. So I never take anything personal from people. If they want to reach out for advice, I'm always happy to share any advice to people. So I just found that being more open, making sure my systems were good, being organised, and fitness as well, that's really been important for me, because I did let that slip last year or previously, and it really affected my mental health. So just making sure, I go to the gym regularly, part of my routine, that I'm spending time with my kids, because that's important as well. Because that used to really stress me out, and I used to think about it constantly, like, I'm letting my kids down, I'm not spending time with them, and it would hold back my work, because while I'm working, I'm constantly thinking about the kids. So really just prioritizing and planning everything has really helped. And I think
Got it.
any of the advice from myself was just to not let those things get to you, what people thought, because it
How do
did.
you do that too? And I know, especially, so there's a lot of people in my life with ADHD too, and I know that specifically can affect. So,
Yep.
but how do you do that? How do you actually do that and not let it take it so personally?
Um, it is hard because people with ADHD, they're constantly thinking about those things.
The mistakes, yeah, all of
Yeah.
it, yeah.
And I still struggle. I'm looking, if I'm out. Is it okay what I'm wearing? Is my shirt fine? Like, do I smell weird? Like,
Yeah.
these thoughts are constantly running through my head. But I think because I've been focusing so much on my goals and things have been busy, and I think people with ADHD, when you're busy, you actually are happy. So you got to keep yourself busy, keep setting goals, because that was the other thing is early days, I didn't set enough goals or big enough goals. I achieved the goal so quickly, and then I was like, oh, what's next? And I was just in this weird space, and I really got down from that. So just keep myself busy, because it doesn't matter. Like when you got all these things happening, awards or whatever, like it doesn't matter what people say.
No,
Yeah, you're not really
at all.
affected by it as much. Yeah.
Most people are too busy thinking about themselves anyway, right?
Yeah, that's it.
So you do quite a few different things, and I guess my next question is for people that are listening to this or watching this as a video, and they want to know more, or maybe they have people in their family that could use your help as well. Where do they go to hang out with you or learn more about your businesses?
So we do have, obviously I've got my LinkedIn profile, I've got my Instagram. We do have our website, Ivana Care. But honestly, like, I'm always open to having a chat to anyone. And I've had already so many meetings with people, and I'm always happy to share advice and tips.
Beautiful.
And just reflect on any of my own mistakes that may be beneficial for others.
Amazing. We have all the links, you guys, in the show notes, so you can
Amazing.
find Jason on his different websites and his socials and his LinkedIn, and yeah, keep an eye on what he's up to, especially in his space, because you're making change in a really, really important, good way in the world. So,
Thank you.
yeah, it's true. It's true. I mean, look at what you're doing. It's incredible. So, as we wrap up, one last question for you. Is there any last words of advice, something that you'd like to leave our listeners with?
Yeah, I think everyone has these goals that they have for themselves, but some people, they don't really seem to value those goals as much, or they think, oh, I'll never achieve that. I think you really need to know that everything that you want is valid, and you should be able to achieve what you want. So never downplay your worth. You need to really reflect, appreciate what your value is, but also make sure your habits reflect what your goals are. So if you want to get ripped, you do need to go to the gym. You do need to eat healthy. It's not just going to happen, and you need to really focus on the outcomes, because that's when you'll start to see change. People always talk about what they're going to do. Anyone can do that. But you really need to focus on those outcomes. Just drown out the background noise. Just focus on what you're doing, and don't chase those fake applause, because it really means nothing. And just, don't get caught up chasing trends, and make sure you stay in your lane. I'm doing so many different things, but I think they all kind of tie in together anyway. I've sort of matched where I've been caring, and it's sort of how I've connected and gone, met all these people. So I think really just stick with what you're good at, and know, or find someone that is good at that particular thing. That makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's a whole checklist of things we could do. That's great. Thank you so much for being here and sharing a little bit about your journey and what you're up to and how you're making change in the world and how you're still somehow keeping sane and having time with your kids. I'm amazed. I'm amazed at you, Jason. Thank you for being here.
No worries. No, thank you so much for having me.